Pain and Suffering Damages in New York under the CVA and ASA, attorney Andrew M. Stengel. Pain and suffering damages represent the primary non economic compensation available to survivors of sexual abuse in New York civil litigation. The Child Victims Act and Adult Survivors Act opened essential pathways for recovery. Additionally, the Gender Motivated Violence Act provides protections for certain cases throughout New York. Unlike economic damages, pain and suffering awards require no receipts or invoices. These damages acknowledge the profound harm survivors endure. What pain and suffering damages cover. Pain and suffering damages compensate survivors for multiple forms of harm. They address physical pain endured during the abuse itself. Additionally, they recognize ongoing psychological suffering caused by trauma. For example, many survivors experience depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder for years afterward. These damages also cover the loss of enjoyment of life. Relationships and family bonds often suffer disruption as a result of abuse. Furthermore, survivors frequently lose their sense of safety and self-worth. New York courts understand that these harms do not appear on medical bills. Consequently, the law provides a separate category to address them. Why New York does not cap non-economic awards. New York State does not impose caps on pain and suffering damages in civil sexual abuse cases. This stands in contrast to other states that limit non-economic awards significantly. Therefore, juries in New York City and throughout the state have broad discretion. They evaluate the totality of the survivor's experience. The absence of caps reflects legislative recognition of abuse severity. It also honors the unique circumstances of each survivor's journey. However, defendants and insurance companies often argue for lower awards. As a result, experienced legal representation becomes critical to securing just compensation. How juries evaluate pain and suffering in CVA and ASA cases. Juries receive detailed instructions on evaluating pain and suffering in New York sexual abuse cases. They consider the duration and frequency of abuse. In addition, they assess the survivor's age at the time of harm. The relationship between the survivor and the abuser carries significant weight. Furthermore, juries examine the long-term psychological impact documented by experts. They look at how abuse affected the survivor's education, career, and personal relationships. Meanwhile, they consider whether the survivor needs extensive therapy or hospitalization. Consequently, a jury's role involves translating intangible harms into a dollar amount. That represents fairness and justice for the survivor of sexual assault or sexual abuse. Understanding million-dollar verdicts in New York sexual abuse cases. In cases involving repeated childhood abuse, long-term trauma, and permanent psychological injury, New York juries have returned million-dollar awards. These verdicts occur in both New York City and upstate jurisdictions. For example, survivors who endured years of abuse by trusted authority figures often receive substantial awards. The verdicts reflect the reality that for many survivors, harm never fully ends. Trauma does not disappear after a trial concludes. Therefore, significant pain and suffering awards serve both compensatory and recognition functions. They validate the survivor's experience and hold abusers and institutions accountable. In New York, these awards represent real acknowledgement of lifelong suffering. Securing maximum damages with an experienced New York sexual abuse lawyer. Securing maximum pain and suffering damages requires skilled legal advocacy. Survivors need attorneys who understand New York sexual abuse law, including the CVA, ASA, and GMVA. Furthermore, effective representation involves thorough investigation and expert testimony. Psychological experts explain the long-term effects of trauma to juries. Life care planners detail the ongoing need for treatment. Meanwhile, experienced attorneys counter defense arguments that minimize harm. In addition, they present compelling evidence of the survivor's suffering in a respectful manner. Therefore, choosing the right New York sexual abuse lawyer directly impacts your case outcome. Most importantly, your attorney should understand both the legal framework and the profound human impact of abuse. contact the law firm of Andrew M. Stengel, PC, to protect your rights. If you or someone you love survives sexual abuse in New York, you deserve compassionate and skilled representation. The law firm of Andrew M. Stengel. PC has extensive experience representing survivors in CVA, ASA, and GMVA cases throughout New York City and New York State. We understand the profound impact of sexual abuse. Our consultations are completely free and entirely confidential. You can reach us for a free, completely confidential consultation. Email info@stengellaw.com. For more information, please visit our website, stengellaw.com. Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.